Good morning. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Judee Light, and I'm a longtime member of this church, and I'm very happy to be here. I have a lot of history with this, and I love it. I want to preface my talk with telling you that today I'm going to use the words God and Spirit and Divine interchangeably. So I invite you to use whatever word you like to use for Creator or Source. And since the beginning of the year, I've been speaking on one of the spiritual powers, of the 12 spiritual powers that Charles Fillmore wrote about in his book, The 12 Powers of Man. And I say of human. And today I'm going to talk about one that's often overlooked and occasionally misunderstood, and very surprisingly powerful once you really get it. And that's the spiritual power of will. Spiritual will is closely connected to the spiritual powers of understanding and imagination. It's kind of like the Holy Trinity of intention. And in Unity's teachings, will isn't about sheer determination or force, nor is it the New Year's resolutions kind of willpower. It's a spiritual faculty. It's a force of divine choice. It's a superpower that allows us to choose consciously and in harmony with our Spirit's vision for us. We're always at choice. And Charles Fillmore said in his book, The Revealing Word, the will is the executive faculty of the mind, the determining factor in humans. When we will to do the will of God, we exercise our individual will in wisdom, in love, and in spiritual understanding. Hearing that, doesn't it lift the pressure a little bit? We don't have to white knuckle it through life. We simply get to choose and choose again and choose again, something higher than our own limited picture and perception of what's going on. A long time ago, I used to think that using my will was trying to make something happen that I wanted to happen, or maybe keeping something from happening that I didn't want to happen. But that's human will. And while that can sometimes work, it can often get exhausting. It's like you're rowing your boat upstream, and Spirit is quietly saying, you know, if you just turn the boat around, the stream, the current will carry you in the direction of your highest good. Spiritual will is different from human will. Human will often burns out. Spiritual will can create worlds. Now that's power. That's power. As I've grown spiritually, my understanding of will has shifted over the years. I now see it as one of my spiritual powers, and definitely a gift, and it's a way to direct my thoughts, my words, my feelings, and my actions in the direction of what I truly want to experience in my life, what I truly want to have, instead of something I might think or others might think I should have or experience, right? Yeah, what I truly want, my heart's desires. And whether you realize it or not, you're using your will all the time to resist or allow, to control or to let go and let God, to play small or to aim high, to get stuck in ego or align with Spirit. You're always choosing, using your will. And when we align with divine will, the benefits are overflowing. Health and happiness and joy and peace and prosperity, and those amazing surprises that come straight to us from the divine's infinite imagination. Ooh, that's my best part. I love those. But we can then experience how human willfulness transforms or gives way to willingness as new possibilities for our good keep getting revealed to us. Now, a lot of people, myself included, have had maybe a complicated relationship with the word will. I know I used to stumble over the words in the Lord's Prayer, "Thy will be done," because when I was saying them, I would feel resistance, or sometimes I'd just be silent at that part. Because I was thinking things like, what if God's will is opposite of what I want? What if it's boring? I don't like boring. What if I don't want to do whatever it is? What if I don't want to be whatever it is? Anybody ever asked yourself any of those questions? Yeah. Maybe you've had your own version of those fears, that maybe God's will means you've got to stop doing a lot of things you enjoy in your life. Yeah. And my spiritual understanding, thank goodness, continued to grow. And so I tried something new. I would ask for what I want, and then I would add this or something that I can even imagine, better than I can even imagine. This or something better than I can even now imagine. Thank you, God. I say it so much it's automatic, and then when I needed to say it up here, I got a little garbled. But you know what I mean. That phrase became a bridge for me. I could still use my will, but then I would open it up to something bigger and better. I wasn't attached to my will. I leave it open, the door. And over time, I discovered that what would come through the open doors that I left open from divine will was always better than my original ask. Always better than my original ask. Never dull, never punishing, always pulling me upward and forward. And I began to realize that divine will isn't something that was being imposed on me. It's the rich flow of creativity and love and life that's always pulling us up to our highest and happiest selves. Yeah. Charles Fillmore reminded us, God's will is always perfection and always all good for all. Perfect health in mind and body. Yeah, imagine that. Perfect health in mind and body. Abundance of every good thing, including joy and peace and wisdom and eternal life. The belief that God's will is both good and evil is not true. God is all good, and only good can come to us from God. That's one of the beliefs that I'm most grateful for in Unity. Such a powerful knowing. So if something in your life feels less than good, it's not God punishing you. It's an invitation to realign your thoughts and your perceptions with divine thoughts. Because our thoughts and our perceptions are what create our reality, our experience of life. And we want to have that power, don't we? And we do have that power. And let's clear up a common misperception. Aligning with divine will doesn't mean that you submit to the strong will of another person. If another person's strong will is kind of trying to bulldoze you, and you don't need to bulldoze back. Yeah. Well, trying to push you a little bit. Silently say to yourself, the Christ Spirit in me beholds the Christ Spirit in you. Now that person likely is not going to instantaneously change unless they do. And there's a slight chance they might not ever change, but you will change. And that's the shift that shifts everything. You will change. Recently, I was drawn to go to Michael Singer's YouTube channel, and I decided that I would listen to the first one that popped up on my iPad. And the title of it was Your Highest Intention, Self-Realization. Now, I figured it would be all about moving towards enlightenment. But he surprised me when he opened with a deep dive into will. I love that. He said, you have will. You use your will all the time. Your body would just sit there unless you move it. You move your arms, you move your mouth, you move your feet. Each is an act of will. However, most of our physical actions are so habitual that we don't even think about them being an act of will. We learn them as children, they become automatic, and we just that's what we do, right? You think it and your body moves. But what about using will for something that's not so automatic, like breaking a negative habit, or choosing peace over drama, or making a healthier choice for yourself? All it takes is declaring an intention. Declaring an intention. Because intention sets the direction and will carries it out for us. Everything in life happens as a result of will, either conscious or unconscious. Singer explained that your will is strong enough to do anything within yourself. You have power over your thoughts, over your emotions, and even your bodily processes, all within you. Now you say, my bodily processes, oh, maybe not. But Singer told the story about how yogis demonstrated power over their metabolism. They were buried in boxes underground with monitors on their bodies so scientists, doctors could monitor them. They were there for several days without food, without air, without water. And when they dug them up and they came out, guess what? They're all alive and well. Yeah. Now, we don't need to be buried in a box, but we can use that same inner power to calm our emotions, manage our thoughts, and say no to whatever doesn't serve us anymore or that's not for our highest good. That same power. You do have strong will, though you may believe you don't. And guess what happens if you believe you don't experience it. So be willing to believe that. You're just not yet aware of how to use your will, maybe in a certain way or a certain area, or you don't have a desire that's been strong enough to ignite that will. The key words are not yet. You can and you will. He also shared a story from prison work that he used to do. He was speaking to a group of prisoners that were serving life sentences. He told them that they could use their power of will to keep from doing something that was not good for them. They said, oh, you don't know us. We're not strong-willed people. If we were, we wouldn't be in here. And so Singer said, what if your idea of the most beautiful woman in the world walked in the room, walked to the center of the room, disrobed, and then walked back out? Could you not look? They said, oh, no, we'd be looking. He said, are you sure you couldn't not look? Oh, we're sure. We couldn't not look. So he upped the stakes, and he said, okay, what if I offer each of you $1 million in cash, a pardon from the governor, keys to a Ferrari out front, a home in Maui, your own private jet, and it's all yours if you don't look. Could you not look then? They said, oh, yeah, we could look then. We definitely look then. Singer said, but you told me you couldn't not look. One of the men said, I was wrong. For that, I'm not looking. Well, they changed their intentions when suddenly the priority of what they wanted changed. That was the difference. And when intention changes, will follows. And a few years ago, I read 2 of his books, The Untethered Soul and Surrender Experiment. How many have read either? Yeah. Both those books had a big impact on my life, big impact. And in preparing my talk, I was inspired to do some more research on what his take on will was. I was very interested in it because I had already realized in my life that surrender is not weakness, surrender is wisdom. So out of the thing I listened to, I share 4 of Singer's ideas that speak to the power of will from a surrendered perspective. The first one is, true will is the choice to let go. You choose again, it's the choice to let go. It's not about making the world conform to your mind or your beliefs. It's the inner decision to let go of whatever is in you that's resisting life, to let go of that. And that can take amazing strength and persistence, yet just not the kind the ego values. Second idea, will is the commitment to inner freedom. You can decide that you're going to be okay no matter what happens in your life. When you make that decision, you've turned everything in your life around for the better. I know that I'm okay no matter what happens in my life. Here he's talking about using your will to commit to spiritual freedom above all else, not being run by your negative thoughts, addictions, attachments, fears. It's not about controlling your outer life. It's about mastering your inner life. Mastering your inner life. Number 3, the surrendered will aligns with the flow of life. There is a way for you to live without constant inner struggle. Just stop fighting with life. And remember that life is always happening for you, not to you. He encourages using will not to manipulate or resist life, but to align with the flow of life, also known as the will of God. So if the words will of God still give you a little charge, make you want to resist, substitute flow of life. Wow, that feels better, doesn't it? That feels better. Okay, and then number 4, use your will to witness, not react. Be the observer of your thoughts, your emotions, your energy, instead of letting yourself get entangled with them. I get entangled with mine sometime every day, but I don't let myself stay there for very long. Will is about staying in a position of awareness even when the inner storm comes, especially when the inner storm comes. Be aware. Okay, to summarize these 4 ideas, Singer reframes the power of will as the will to let go of resistance, choose inner freedom over external control, surrender to life and what it brings you, and to stay present and aware. And all of those things save you so much energy. And once you really get them and how wonderful the results are, you're going to be easier to do them all. And to learn how Singer chose to use his power of will to say yes. Oh, I forgot to tell you in the surrender experiment, the book was about him committing to say yes to whatever life brought him for an entire year. For an entire year. Love that book. But if you want to find out how he did that and the wonderful results he got, I highly recommend reading the surrender experiment. And then I'll leave you with this. You are already powerful. You were born with it. The key is to believe it. And that's your choice. You use your will every day, from the littlest decisions like, what am I going to have for breakfast this morning, to big, life-changing decisions. You direct the course of your life through your will. And the more you align your will with divine will or the flow of life, saying yes to life, trusting that it's always happening for you, the more you unlock abundance, freedom, health, joy, happiness, all those wonderful things that have been yours to claim all your life. You just weren't aware of them. That's why I like to talk about all these 12 powers. So much we've been unaware of. But your spiritual growth is up to you, and you can make it a priority with your will. Simple decision. Declare your intentions, and then you ignite your will. And choose to live as though heaven is here now. Because guess what? It is if you let it in. Now you can ignore it, not believe it, but if you let it in, it's here. So we're all in this together in bringing the experience of heaven here to earth. So I thank each of you for being here today. I thank you for listening to me, and I thank you for saying yes to the flow of life. It's time, and so it is.